Joe Rogan slams California school that pushed woke anti racism on his 9-year-old daughter and says he doesn't even know what the ideology means. So, Joe Rogan is slamming the California elementary school that he claims pushed woke anti racism ideology on his 9-year-old daughter after George Floyd's killing. The podcaster claims the unnamed school issued a blanket statement email in May 2020 telling families that students must be anti racist, something he said the kids were too young to even understand. When the whole George Floyd thing happened, one of the schools that my kids were going to back in California released this email saying that it's not enough to not be racist, you now must be anti racist. Rogan 54 said on Tuesday's episode of his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. Rogan, who has been embroiled in his own racial controversy after old clips of him using the N word surfaced, said he could support schools teaching students that racism is stupid, but argues teaching them to be anti racist is inappropriate. These kids are not even remotely racist, like they have all sorts of different kinds of friends, he said. I've never heard them discuss it once. It's just I like this person and she's nice to me and we like to play together and we both like the same things, he said. So to tell a 9-year-old that you have to be anti racist, well, then they go looking for racism, they're going to go looking to confront it. Floyd, 46, was killed at the hands of Minneapolis police in May 2020 during an arrest. His death triggered protests around the globe against racism and police brutality. So let's check this out the video.
When the whole George Floyd thing happened, one of the schools that my kids were going to back in California released this email saying that it's not enough to not be racist. You now must be anti-racist. And this, my kid's 9 at the time.
What does it
And I'm
mean
like,
by
what
this?
does it mean? These kids are not even remotely racist. Like, they have all sorts of different kinds of friends. I've never heard them discuss it once. It's just I like this person and she's nice to me and we like to play together and we both like the same things and let's. So to tell a 9-year-old that you have to be anti-racist, well, then they're going to go looking for racism. They're going to go looking to confront it. But I don't know if it's power. It's an ideology that captures people, and I think the roots of it in their mind is good. That is, you're going to stomp out racism.
And really, he makes a fair point because it's basically like, from what he's saying, if he were to take it literally as to what he's saying, like, race isn't even on the mind at all for his kids. So to call people to be anti racist when they've never been racist, that's never been inside their head, you're now basically getting them to start thinking about being racist. It's just like an absurd way of thinking, right? Like, why would you even put that into someone's head who's never had really any experience with caring about race? So Rogan also criticized the educators who truly believe pushing the woke curriculum was a good idea, calling them naive. They weren't that good at teaching in the first place, the podcaster argued. And now, here they are saying they're going to tackle something, not just tackle something as complex as race in America, but you're going to establish rules that you can't just be not racist, you have to be anti racist. And you're going to teach this to a 9-year-old, he questions. So, what are you saying? Like, what exactly are you saying? What is your effing end goal? He stated he supported academics instilling values of equality, but his daughter's school's agenda was confusing. If you want to tell my 9-year-old they have to be anti racist, what does it mean? He questions. They have to go find racism and confront it? And basically, he's just pretty much asking, like, if you're going to tell the kids that are around 9 years old to be anti racist, are you meaning that you are telling them to go confront racism? or to go seek out people who are being racist to go confront them when they're just kids. Like, it's pretty crazy when you really think about it. So the podcaster claims the California school's anti-racist push came amid the nationwide push to combat racial injustice that followed Floyd's death. And Floyd was killed on May 25th, 2020, having been arrested for allegedly attempting to use a counterfeit $20 bill to buy cigarettes at a grocery store. And shortly after the incident, video emerged of Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck as he lay on the ground for 9 minutes. Now you should also just see the full video of that whole interaction. Basically, it sheds a little bit more light onto it. So Floyd cried out, "I can't breathe," over and over, and his words became a rallying cry for demonstrators the world over. Chauvin was found guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in Floyd's death, and three other officers, Tu Thao, Thomas Lane, and J. Alexander Kueng, were fired from the police department who did nothing to intervene while witnessing Floyd's death. Rogan's remarks about anti-racist education came during a Tuesday interview with playwright and filmmaker David Mamet, in which the pair discussed the current state of Hollywood. The podcaster has been under fire in recent months from progressives who called on Spotify, the streaming service that houses his show, to cancel his $200 million deal over his COVID-19 comments and use of racial slurs, although mainly it was because of his COVID-19 comments. In January, a group of 270 doctors and scientists, very little doctors actually inside there, signed an open letter to Spotify accusing Rogan of pushing anti vax misinformation and branding him a menace to public health. And after Spotify didn't respond to the letter, musicians Neil Young and John Mitchell led a boycott and pulled their music from the streaming platform, although technically they didn't. And also, they don't actually have really any rights to their own music because they sold out, so they really have no say at all. Spotify eventually launched content advisory warnings on episodes that include discussion about COVID 19 on a rolling basis. And it's not just on Joe Rogan's podcast, it's on everyone's podcast. Then in February, clips resurfaced from Rogan's podcast in which he used the N word over 20 times. He later apologized, calling it the most regretful and shameful thing I've ever had to talk about publicly. "It looks effing horrible even to me," Rogan said. "I know that to most people there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast, and I agree with that now, and I haven't said it in years." Although, you should actually look at the videos of him saying those words in context because it makes way more sense than obviously mashed together into clips. Last month, Rogan threatened to cancel his Spotify deal if he has to walk on eggshells, and there's more people pouring over it, but it's the same thing. I do it the same way, Rogan said during his March 29th episode. "If I become something different because it grew bigger, I will quit. If it gets to a point that I can't do it anymore, where I have to do it in some sort of weird way, where I walk on eggshells and mind my P's and Q's, F that." And today, Spotify has removed at least 113 episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience, with most episodes that have been taken down recorded involving far-right commentators, although there's actually been a lot that are people who are on the left and also in the middle. The podcaster was supported by some conservative media figures who pledged to defend his freedom of speech. Donald Trump Jr. condemned the woke mob for trying to cancel Rogan. Conservative commentator and Daily Wire founder Ben Shapiro also voiced his support for Rogan and accused the left of using his later racial slurs controversy to destroy a guy who doesn't carry water for those with institutional power. The president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, who had been largely criticized for his vaccine skepticism and the way he's governed the country throughout the pandemic, also backed Rogan on the social media platform, and Spotify CEO Daniel Ek first responded to the controversy surrounding Rogan's comments regarding COVID and vaccines against the deadly virus in an official statement in January, saying Spotify would be adding COVID-19 content advisories to all podcast episodes that cover the virus. Although it was kind of funny in a sense that, like, smoking kills more people every single year than any virus out there. EK pushed back at employees demanding Rogan be ousted from the service's catalog, saying the controversial podcaster is vital to the platform's future and it's not the company's place to dictate the discourse of his show. There are many things that Joe Rogan says that I strongly disagree with and find very offensive, said at the company town hall. But if we want even a shot at achieving our bold ambitions, it will mean having content on Spotify that many of us may not be proud to be associated with. Rogan publicly addressed the controversy earlier this year in a post discussing some of the controversy that's been going on over the past few days. He told fans on Instagram, "I don't always get it right. I will do my best to try to balance out these more controversial viewpoints with other people's perspectives so we can maybe find a better point of view." So let's actually check out some of these comments. Let's read some. "I don't understand what the heck he would be doing living in Cali in the first place. Floyd had fentanyl and was an ex-con. Enough said. If he doesn't know what it means, why is he criticizing it? Spot on, Joe. State testing results just came in. In math, 8th graders are at 5th grade levels. Teachers' unions and all the woke demands have destroyed our schools. Everything that the left says that they are against, in reality, they are for and are actively engaging in the practice. Why did they not allow George Floyd's autopsy to be used in the trial against the policeman that was restraining George Floyd? George was no angel. The fact that this man has impressionable young people around him all the time is disturbing and concerning. Prayers needed for sure for his children. Sadly, that sounds plausible. No, 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 no. So, what's special about your friend at school? He's fun. So, he admits to stemming something he doesn't understand. Sounds about right. Whatever happened to free speech? This makes me sick. Why are schools involved with politics anyway? That's a real question. And here's the thing, I do kind of like agree with this statement, this question kind of stuff, where it's like schools should be teaching students skills. Politics has nothing to do with school in terms of like public school, in terms of just getting a better education. I've been following Rogan for years. This guy is a straight shooter, and I would trust him to watch my dog over anyone in DC. It strikes me as completely backwards that one particular party wants to indoctrinate children, yet this rhetoric and completely divisive. Keep speaking now, Joe. That's why you have such a big fan base. If at all possible, pull your kids out of public schools. They are basically Democrat youth camps and want to indoctrinate your kid into their far left agenda. Totally agree. Same experience with my 11-year-old son in Southern California. What these people really need to address is their own white misandry. That's the only hat red they need to do anything about. They are going to try and cancel him again. It is Marxism, Joe, disruption of the nuclear family to further state control. GF is not a hero. It's all part of the plan to indoctrinate children as young as possible. They must conform. They must think of the state as their family. We live in scary times. Let's see. All humans are different. They have different thoughts. They have different holidays. They can be short or tall, long hair or short hair. They can be different sizes. They can have different color skin. They can also have different opinions. A good person respects those differences. You say, okay, we're different. That's okay. And you don't mistreat people that are different than you. People who don't respect differences are not friendly. You don't want to be unfriendly. You see there, that's how you explain to a child that you respect race and all differences. The fact that this man has such a huge issue with explaining that to his child is proof that he's clearly not respectful of any of those things. Well, that's not exactly what he's even saying. He's saying, like, why are you trying to push kids to be anti racist? That's what he said. This comment had like nothing to do with what he said. Joe, you can afford homeschooling, pour out of the school. Stat. He's absolutely correct. Kids do not see color. My son went to an international school, and his friends were from all different continents. Kids go to school at that age to learn to read and write, not to be indoctrinated. I'm guessing indoctrinated. And here's the thing that people need to understand, right? If you've ever met someone who was racist to any race, you come to realize that that was not something that they were born with. They were raised by people, either their parents or their friends that surround them, that influence their line of thinking, right? No one's born racist. No one's born viewing people as different as themselves until they get certain experiences, and then they end up getting basically influenced by someone that they respect. So if someone that they respect, someone that they look up to, maybe a parent, like like a mom or a dad, an older brother, older sister, that kind of stuff, or a friend of theirs that's a little bit older than them that they look up to, and they have certain viewpoints that gets instilled onto them, and if those viewpoints are pretty racist, that's how they could end up getting racist. It's not something that you're just born hating other people. You're basically raised that way in some form. Like there has to be like an outside influence causing you to view people of different races in a different light. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty interesting article. Feel free to give your thoughts. If you want to learn how to get out of debt, go to 40inbox.com.